Kia ora te whānau, ko Clark Martin toku ingoa. I'm a registered anaesthetic technician, workplace assessor and basic life support instructor for the Canterbury District Health Board. Today I'm going to talk to you about CPR, completely focusing on chest compressions and using the defibrillator. So any further instruction you need for basic life support, you'll need to do your appropriate course at your institution. So, starting on chest compressions. Why do we do chest compressions? We want to push oxygenated blood from the heart to the brain to keep it alive while the heart is not functioning as it should. So, to do effective compressions, we need to focus on technique. And the techniques we're going to be looking at are hand position, our body position to be able to continuously do effective compressions, our depth of compression, our rate, and also the ratio for compressions to ventilations. And then finally we're going to look at our hand release to make sure we're allowing blood back into the heart. So to push blood out of the heart, we're going to squash the heart between the sternum and the spine. So focusing on our hand position first, we're going to put the heel of the hand midline on the lower half of the sternum, other hand directly above that. Going to get my elbows, wrists, shoulders all in line directly above the patient, using my body weight to do the compression. When I start my compression, I'm going to push into the patient by 1/3 of their chest depth. Doesn't matter how big they are, we're going to go in to 1/3 of the chest depth. And then we're going to do a rate of between 100 to 120 beats per minute. So the chest compression should be fast and vigorous. It should make you work. So here we go, we'll just demonstrate. Okay, so there were 30 compressions. Starting off with 30 because if we have a patient who's not tubed, then our ratio should be 30 compressions to 2 attempted breaths. So if somebody's got an ambu bag there, the person doing the compressions should reach across and squeeze the ambu bag twice while somebody else is doing a two-handed jaw thrust chin lift on the patient with a mask. If the patient's intubated, then we're going to be doing continuous compressions, because you don't need to pause for compressions with somebody's intubated. Okay, so there's our ratio, and now we're going to see what continuous compressions might look like. As I said before, we're going to use our body weight rather than bending our arms to generate the compressions. And continuous compressions is very tiring. So nobody can really do effective compressions for longer than 2 minutes. After 2 minutes we would expect people to be swapping in and out of doing chest compressions. So continuous chest compressions is vigorous work. I'm getting a bit of a sweat up. The last technique that I want to demonstrate today for effective compressions is a technique which allows blood back into the heart while we're doing chest compressions, because obviously if we want blood to go out of the heart to the brain, we need blood to come back into the heart to be able to squeeze it out again. So we are going to basically focus on doing our chest compressions 1/3 depth, but on the way out we want to allow full expansion of the chest. So allow your body weight to come off the chest fully to allow full expansion of the chest, to allow the blood back into the heart. So we don't need to see people bouncing off the chest, but we want to see people allowing full expansion of the chest to allow that blood to come back in. So that's our chest compressions. We're now going to move on to the defibrillator. So this is a Lifepak20e Aed Defibrillator. You may use a different device in your facility, but pretty much they're very similar. First of all, what is an AED? What does AED mean or stand for? Automated External Defibrillator. Automated, it'll tell you what to do. External, because we're going to place it on the outside of the patient. And defibrillator, because it's going to defibrillate. This is a biphasic device. Biphasic means that when an electric charge goes through the patient, the charge is going to go from pad to pad and then back again. Okay, and this has been shown to be much more effective at giving a curative event with less energy and also less damage to the cardiac muscle than the old monophasic defibrillators. Okay, and defibrillation is using an electric current to interrupt a fatal rhythm, being ventricular fibrillation or ventricular tachycardia, VF and VT, interrupting those fatal rhythms to hopefully allow a survivable rhythm to start up again. Okay, so that's what we're going to intend to do with the defibrillator. So, we're going to use the AED mode here. We're going to let the machine tell us what to do. So, we're going to turn the machine on and allow it to tell us what to do.
Connect electrodes.
Going to take the pads and we're going to place them where the pads tell us. So, obviously CPR is going to be happening while this is you're putting the pads on, so you're going to put it as close as possible to the ideal position as you can. But obviously sometimes the ideal position is not possible.
Push analyze.
Very good. So we're now going to push analyze, so we're going to push the button analyze.
Analyzing now. Stand clear.
The machine will determine if it's appropriate for the shock to be delivered.
Advised.
It has decided the shock's appropriate, so it's automatically charged up.
Push to shock.
And I'm now going to put my thumb over the red button, stand clear, shocking now, and deliver the shock. Once I'm happy the shock's been delivered,
start CPR.
I then tell people to start chest compressions again. Okay? So that is delivering the shock. Now, as I said before, sometimes the pads can't go here because of surgical reasons. Ideally, you want the pads to be here, but if you need to start bringing them close together, that's fine as long as you don't start to overlap the pads. Okay, so that's really important. So now, the important thing about the defibrillator is now staff safety. Okay, if you bring the device into the room, you better be prepared to use it whilst also keeping your friends and colleagues safe. So, one really important aspect of defibrillating a patient is being aware of what is bad with electricity. So, when you are preparing to defibrillate somebody, you need to think about, is there any water around? Okay, so the patient needs to be dry, they need to be not in a puddle of water. Okay, if they are in a puddle of water, they need to be shifted and dried down. Okay, we need to make sure there's no free oxygen. So nasal prongs, Hudson masks, loose ambi bags need to be removed before defibrillation happens, because otherwise there could be a fire. Okay, and finally we need to make sure that nobody is touching the patient or the patient's bed. Otherwise those people will receive some of the energy as well and also need defibrillation. So what I want to see when people do defibrillate is for them to take control. They are in control of safety for everybody who's assisting this patient who's down at the moment. So you're going to use your voice, you're going to say stand clear, you're going to use your arm and look down the patient to make sure everybody's safe. You're going to place your thumb over the red button but then not look at it again. When you push it, you should be looking down to make sure nobody else has touched the patient. So we're going to push analyze again.
Analyzing now. Stand clear.
Machine's determined it's a shockable rhythm. I place my thumb over the red button.
Clear.
Stand clear. Shocking now. Shock's delivered. Start CPR.
Start CPR.
Very good. So, just to recap quickly, with defibrillation, we've talked about what an AED is, automated external defibrillation. We've talked about the defibrillation is using an electric current to interrupt a fatal rhythm to hopefully allow a survival rhythm to start up. We've talked briefly about biphasic action of the defibrillator. We've talked briefly about pad placement, and then safety. No water, no free oxygen, no touching the patient. You need to take control. And finally, you need to know how to check your own defibrillator. There should be a daily check that happens every day. So you need to find out how to check the defibrillator in your workplace. And then once again, make sure that you do your basic life support course at your facility so that you can be useful and know what you're doing during an emergency situation. Thanks very much.